What's up guys, and welcome back to another Pokemon Sun and Moon video. And what I thought I'd do today is do a sort of in-depth analysis run through of the leaked decks we covered yesterday, but this time I actually go through in more detail, look at the names, break them down, see the basically where they come from, and then speculate on what the Pokemon can actually look like and such. First off, a big thank you to everyone in the comment section yesterday. You guys were a great help. Everyone was sort of talking about names and saying, oh, this could be this and this could be this, and it's actually really helped me. So thank you to everyone who commented. I always enjoy getting help, I suppose, as well as receiving comments in general. Like waking up and saying that my videos got so many comments it's great. But I guess we'll just jump straight into it. Just going to go through the whole decks again, but this time a bit more slowly, I suppose. Hopefully the video won't be too long though. We're just going to break it down. It's all planned out and we'll see. Before we start though, a general point. This is sort of the point that a lot of people brought up yesterday. So people were saying, well, where's the fossils? Why are there no fossil Pokemon in this dex? Surely that means it can't be real. Well, yes, okay, maybe you have a point. But if I would not be surprised if fossils were not included in this generation. Let me tell you why. First up, number one, regions based on Hawaii, the generations based on Hawaii, everything like that. There aren't that many fossils on Hawaii. Hawaii is an island all on its own, and a long time ago it was a volcanic string of islands. Of course, that meant not many any dinosaurs that lived on it would have had to evolved on that island. Not people aren't other people. Dinosaurs aren't exactly able to take a stroll from mainland America all the way across, are they? So they can have to evolve on the island. Yes, of course you could have sea creatures there very easily, and then maybe some birds and such. But dinosaurs, you're not going to have seen a T-Rex on Hawaii most likely. So there's a lack of fossils on Hawaii. Hence, I wouldn't. It would make sense, I suppose, for no fossil Pokemon to be in Alola. The other reason being that Sun and Moon seem to be the spiritual successors to Generation 2. We had Generation 1, Red, Blue, and then we had X and Y, which is sort of like a rehash. There's loads of similarities between Generation 1 and Generation 6. So I'll leave it there. I won't go into too much depth here, but it seems that Sun and Moon are the spiritual sort of predecessors of Generation 2, and there were no fossils in Generation 2 either. So again, that would sort of make sense there. But without further ado, let's start checking out this deck. So first up we have the grass starter line. We have Rowlet, Archute and Robin Root. Again, remember guys, these are leaks. We haven't confirmed any of this, but I don't want to say it's likely, but we can't confirm any of this, so it's just all speculation right now. I thought I'd do this though, because if it's real, cool, I have all of the Pokemon Origin stuff ready basically. If not, it's always, I really enjoyed making this and going through this actually, so it's fun for me either way. So obviously Archute is a combination of Archer and Root, and Robin Root is a combination of Robin Hood and Root, again an Archer. So basically, we've seen the designs, that the apparent leak of the final evolution of Rowlet, it's an Archer apparently, so that would make sense there. Now we spoke about the various typing of Robin Root. We had Grass Various, and it was sort of elaborated on by the person later on in the thread after I made the video yesterday, and the 4 types apparently are Grass Flying, Pure Grass, Grass Ground and Grass Electric. So very different there. I don't know how they're going to do this if of course this is real, because okay, the name is Robin Root. How are you going to be able to get 4 different types and that have designs that all fit with the name? Well, maybe the designs don't exactly have to fit exactly with the name. Maybe maybe the name just fits on the first sort of primary one, the Grass Flying type, the Owl, the Archer, and the others can sort of go their own way. I don't know, but I went through and I did some sort of possible designs, I suppose. Grass Ground, that really strikes me as possibly a Griffin, because obviously that was one of the ideas we had when we looked at Rowlet evolutions, turning into a Griffin and becoming Grass Ground. And then Pure Grass, I thought maybe a sword, maybe it's a sword, I don't know. And then Grass Electric, I thought maybe an Archer as well, like another form of the Archer, this time with electric arrows. I don't know really. That was just ideas I was throwing around in my head. Let me know if you have any ideas yourself down below. But we'll move on to the next line, which of course is the Litten line. We have Litten, Pantherm and Baltigre. Pantherm is actually a combination of Panther and Thermal. I didn't realise this until after the video yesterday, but Thermal obviously at the end. Thermal being, seeing in heat. So I'm sure that Litten will have some, or Litten's evolution, if this is real of course, will have something related to seeing in heat. And obviously Panther, you can see a picture of there. It could look similar to that. The final evolution is Baltigre, which is a combination of belts, because of the belt on the Baltigre's design, possible design of course, and obviously Tiger or Tigre. So we had obviously 4 types of Baltigre as well, and these types are apparently Fire Dark, which seems to be the design we have, Pure Fire, Fire Ghost and Fire Poison. Now Fire Poison we did throw about when we were speculating as well, and we thought it might be a Manticore, so that's one possibility there, or it could just be a poisonous cat, who knows. And then we had Fire and Fire Ghost as the other two. I don't know what they could do with that. Maybe pure fire is just, some, quadruped cats, who knows, and then Fire Ghost, who knows what they could do with that really. I have no ideas there, I'm not really going to focus too much on it. So we're going to move on to Popplio's evolution line with Popplio, Cerilio and Cyrene. Now obviously Cerilio is a combination of Siren and something else. I couldn't figure out what though. Like I looked at Irilio, Ilio, I don't know. I looked in Hawaiian, apparently like Leo in Hawaiian is horses and Ilio is dogs. Doesn't really fit here, I just thought I'd mention that. But I don't really know what the second half of the name would be. But obviously Cyrene is just pretty much Siren. I don't know what would come after, what you'd add on, maybe just an extra E to make it sound good. I don't know, but obviously it fits in with the design we've seen. And the 4 types we had for Cyrene were Water Fairy, which looks to be the Siren one, Water, pure Water, which could be like a normal sea lion basically. We also had Water Fighting, so maybe the strong man we were speculating with in the first place. And then also a Water Psychic type, so it could be similar to the Siren, maybe a bit different, who knows there. Again, I'm not going to spend too much time on that. We're going to keep moving on. Next, Pikipek's line, we have Pikipek, Pluckypeck and Lumbird. Pluckypeck being a combination of Plucky and Peck, so maybe like a very, very confident evolution. And then Lumbird is a combination of Lumber and Bird, because obviously this line is based on woodpeckers. I didn't realise that when I was talking about it yesterday, but obviously based on woodpeckers, so Lumber and the grass flying type makes a whole lot of sense there. So that is that really, not too much extra to say there. Moving on, of course, we have YUNGOOS and GUMSHOOS. We have nothing to talk about here, we're just going to move on. And after that, of course, Grubbin's line, Grubbin, Chargerbug, Vikavolt, etc. And then we have Rockruff and Wereruff, Rockruff's evolution. This again was supposed to be a split evolution line, which was Rock Steel, Rock Fairy, Rock Dark and Rock Fighting. Obviously Rock Steel could be like some sort of spiky werewolf with huge claws and stuff. Rock Fairy, I have no idea what they could do with a werewolf there. I feel like that's supposed to be actually pure rock. I don't know how fairy comes into there, who knows. Then we have Rock Dark, could be like a really menacing and scary one. And then we have Rock Fighting, so a really buff werewolf. So obviously Wereruff would be based on a werewolf. Maybe different forms of it, so maybe like Rock Dark is on 2 legs, Rock Fighting is on like 4, so in Rock Steel, who knows. If it's real, there's many different ways they can go with it. So let's move on to the next line, which is BOUNSWEET's line. We have BOUNSWEET, Buntestein and Buntsour. Now Buntestein could be a combination of bounce and something else. Apparently BOUNSWEET is based on, has bounce in the name as well as sweet, but I think it could be bountiful, because like bountiful being like loads, really growing well. So I feel like Buntestein could be like, obviously BOUNSWEET being a single plant, Buntestein could be like this grown up plant with loads of berries, loads of different sort of berries hanging off it, very similar to, BOUNSWEET's design. Who knows though, and I don't know what the second half of that word is. Steen, maybe, I don't know exactly, esteem, who knows. And of course Buntsour, bountiful again, but this time sour, and it could be, obviously being a pure poison type, relating to basically souring fruit, like fermenting fruit, like you leave a piece of fruit out for days, it's going to start, fermenting and stuff. So maybe that's how it links in there, who knows. Moving on, we have CoroCoro, of course, nothing too special to say here, we've seen it before. And we'll move on straight on to the next line, which of course is Possum and Possum Mime. Possum being a combination of paw and possum, and then Possum Mime including possum as well. I don't know what the second half of Possum Mime is, maybe like mime or mine, I don't know exactly where that comes from, but obviously being based off of possum in general. This could very easily be the pest that Youngest was sent to eradicate, as I spoke about yesterday. And of course, looking at a picture of possum here, yeah, it looks cute, sort of, but it could be a pest, so that's one reason they could want to get rid of it, of course. We move on again, we have then Comfey next, and then we have number 748, Layri, which is a combination of lay and probably fairy as well, linking that in there. Lays being those, the flower sort of necklaces they hang over you, so they lay you and stuff. And fairy, obviously being a pure fairy type, it would make sense to have like, rather than just lay as in the name, give it RIE, which is similar to fairy in some way. That's the only other word I could really think of to fit in there. Then moving on, we have number 749, CUTIEFLY, with its evolution Adorosite. Now obviously adorable was the first half of that word, and I had a bit of trouble thinking about the second one, so I looked into bee-flies a bit more, and bee-fly larva to be exact, and warning for anyone who doesn't like bugs, the second half of the word is parasite, and bee-fly larvae, as CUTIEFLY is based on, Bluefly larvae tend to actually become parasites on other, animals' bodies before they become bee flies. So possibly parasite being part of that name there. Of course, I'm not expecting a Dorocyte to be based on a parasite. I think they might just be adding it in as a link to the bee fly, and it could be like a fully grown fly, for example. I wouldn't expect it to be a parasite-based Pokemon. It's just got it in its name. Moving on then, we have this line that was really perplexing to us yesterday. We have number 751, QUAKITT, and number 752, Bonene. It was perplexing to me, but many people then looked into it, especially the ones that know about Hawaii, and there's actually a bird in Hawaii called Nene. So, we're doing the Nene, great. So it looks like Bonene, will, if it's real of course, will be based on Nene. I don't know what the first half of the word is, maybe like bon meaning good, or bow, I don't know exactly how that, how that would work. But it seems to be, it's not a duck itself, I don't think. But QUAKITT makes sense with having quack, and maybe like kits or kid making it the second half, because obviously it is a pre-evolution. It would make sense there. Moving on again, of course, we have Beware. Nothing to say about that thing, just move on. Then we have Kamala and its evolution Dormala here. Dormala, as I spoke about yesterday, is likely a combination of dormant and koala. Obviously, we're referencing the fact that koalas sleep a lot, so dormant, Dormala could be basically a koala that's, always asleep, never actually awake, never actually interacting with you, hence why it's part psychic, because it actually can, sort of do stuff in its sleep as well. It's dormant, but it's actually still there. Moving on then, we have BRUXBY and BRUXISH, the pre-evolution we didn't expect to have. BRUXBY is a combination of likely of BRUXISM and Baby. BRUXISM meaning like the overbite that BRUXISH has, so that makes sense there. Obviously Baby referencing the pre-evolution. What could BRUXBY be based on? Well, it could be based on a baby of the fish that BRUXISH is based on, which is either like a triggerfish or a filefish. So one of those is possibly, what it's going to be based on. Basically a baby fish. It's nothing, it's not really too specific there. A baby fish. Moving on, we have, I guess, the exclusive line, the line equivalent to that, which is PESP and PESCADO+, which are both water psychic as well. They obviously come from Pescado, the names, which means fish, in Pescado, Pesca, whatever whatever language you're talking about here. But PES maybe also includes like pep, the word, maybe like a pep talk, so maybe it's like a really active and fun little baby fish, who knows. And PESCADO+, I'm assuming, is a combination of Pescado and cool. In terms of what actual fish they're based on, I have no clue. I did look through fish that are endemic to Hawaii, but I couldn't see anything that jumped out, anything that shared like pes or cool in the name, so nothing jumped out at me there. Then we have Mudbray and Munterdale. Just going to move straight on from those two though. And then we have Minior and Meteor. Now Meteor obviously being a combination of Mighty and Meteor, I would expect Minior's evolution to be basically a huge meteor. Maybe it will have like meteor-like arms as well and be able to do stuff rather than just being a hovering mess. Or it could go the Staryu-Starmie route and just be similar but bigger. And maybe, extra design and stuff. And of course, if it's going to have an evolution like this, it might as well keep the same sort of core thing going with shields down, so it might have the same sort of mechanic there, whereas when it loses health, it breaks off its core and you get to see the monster that's beneath Meteor's shell. Who knows? Then we have the cat line, Darline and Darwiska. Darline, Darlene and Darwiska. We spoke about this yesterday. They're the cat line that is supposed to apparently change type upon breeding, basically, so you can pass down a type on breeding. Darlene obviously is a combination of Darwin and Feline, so Darline maybe is the way you pronounce it, who knows, and Darwiska being a combination of Darwin and Whisker. Someone I think mentioned in the comments yesterday, apparently Darwin did study cats, and this is a drawing of a cat he did, so he also did some studying of cats, so that might be the link in there and why this is sort of poignant. Moving on, then we have this full set line of bug types. We have CATERBURR, Parkoon, Flysicle and Hijikun. And we didn't really know too much about this yesterday, but we'll break it down now. So we have Caterpillar. This is a combination of caterpillar and brr. So, brr as in I'm cold. So Caterpillar. That makes a lot of sense there. I really like that. Parkoon is actually a combination of Parker and Cocoon, as in Parker jackets. So I feel like this Cocoon Pokemon is going to be like a little Cocoon Pokemon wrapped up in a little jacket sort of thing, which would be really cool. And then Flysicle obviously is a combination of Fly and Icicle. Now, we didn't really know where Hijikun came into the mix yesterday, but a lot of people mentioned in the comment section, Hija comes from hijack, so hijack and cocoon, and this would seem to be a similar sort of mechanic to Shedinja. I don't think it's quite similar. Shedinja obviously is basically the husk left behind by Parkoon, by Ninkara when it evolves into Ninjask in some cases, but I think Hijikun might be different. I think like it may because obviously hijack, it suggests that it hijacks a cocoon. So it could happen when you evolve Parkoon, and then obviously Hidjakun is just something that takes on the shed cocoon and lives in it, or it could be like an actual direct evolution of Parkoon. I don't really know right now, and obviously we'll find out if it's real, of course, to begin with, but that is that. Moving on, we have another ice type line, which is SNOHOM and Snoller. It was mentioned in the comment section again, guys, thank you, that SNOHOM is likely a combination of snow and hom, which is French for man, so basically snowman is its name. And obviously Snorer is a combination of snow and horror, because there's an ice ghost type. I imagine we'll be getting a nice, very monstrous and scary snowman Pokemon. If it's real, of course, if it's real. Next up we have the Dolphin line, basically, the number 772 Delphin and number 773 Paul Price. Delphin obviously being a combination of Dolphin and Fin, and then Paul Price probably being a combination of Porpoise and Surprise. Surprise linking into the fact that it can have various typings similar to the starters. These are Water Ice, Water Steel, Water Fairy and Water Dragon. Again, we're assuming all these types are dependent on what island they evolve on, because there are 4 islands in the Alola region, there are 4 types of each of these various typings, who knows. But Water Ice, Water Steel, Water Fairy, Water Dragon, okay, Water Dragon could be like some menacing evolution. Water Fairy could be some nice, happy evolution, and then Water Ice and Steel, obviously Water Ice may be like obviously an icy evolution, and Steel being maybe more a hard one. I might do a video in the future if this leak does get confirmed by like another Pokemon being revealed. I might do a video speculating on which typing comes from which island, but we'll see in the future. Next up, we have another line we sort of knew about from, well, we were expecting, I suppose, from Pokemon, from animals we were told we were going to be focused on. This is Cumbersome and Anemone. Cumbersome, being based on a sea cucumber, is a combination of cucumber and the word cumbersome. So literally it's just the word cumbersome to mean like big and heavy and such. So it might be a really big sea cucumber here, who knows. And Anemone is actually basically a combination of anemone and possibly enemy, depending on how. Obviously anemones aren't really bad animals. I don't want to say bad animals, you get what I mean. They're not like evil or anything, they look very nice. So I don't know if enemy would really work that well there, but it seems to be linked in there, or maybe it's just the way they've set it out. Next up, we have obviously Mimikyu and Togedemaru we've seen before. Going to move on straight away from those. And then we have this interesting line, Softore and Panquake. We were like, what the hell does this mean? Is it like pancake? Well, it could be. It very well could be. However, not in the same sense we were thinking. One for Softore, one was suggested was souffle. Probably not souffle. The other one, which makes a lot more sense, is soft and turtle. Soft turtle. Why soft turtle? Well, because there are turtles that have soft shells. And these turtles look like pancakes, so then obviously being a ground type, Earthquake fits in there to give you Panquake. And I feel like this could literally soft-shelled turtles that are flat and look like pancakes. It fits perfectly there, so maybe, who knows. Well, obviously it might not be true at all, who knows. Then we have SHRIMP+POD, WIMPOD and CHAMPOD. Obviously SHRIMP+POD being a combination of shrimp and pod. Champon probably being champion and pod. I couldn't find anything else where champ could come from my sort of research, so who knows exactly where that is from. If you guys have any ideas, let me know down below. But let's carry on. And then we have Garugla. Now obviously Gorilla is featuring part in here, and I feel like the rug comes from rugged because it is a fighting ground type, so rugged would make sense because a fighting type is going to be a pretty rugged design, and gorillas look pretty rugged anyway, so I feel like gorilla and rugged is a pretty rugged, or rugged, however you want to pronounce it, is a pretty good guess there. Then we have number 784 Drakid and then Drampa. Obviously Drakid being a combination of dragon and kid, nothing too special there, very very simple. Move on up to the next line, which is going to be the line we had no idea about. The psychic line, Lumage, Lespel and Librade. Now obviously people helping out in the comments again. Obviously Lumage includes Mage there, we did mention that in the video. Where Lu comes from, it could be Luna, as mentioning like the moon possibly, or it could be Illuminate, so the Lu from Illuminate, so maybe light something up. Who knows? The spell obviously has spell in it. What la means, I have no clue. It might be coming from French, where la is the prefix for feminine words, suggesting that this line could be a feminine line, feminine only, who knows? That's just my own speculation. But Librade on the end probably includes library. And then the second half, raid, or raid, I turned into read. because library, we have books in it, we read books, read, raid, it's very similar, it's not exactly the same, it's just what I turned into, or it could be braids, so it could be like a librarian with braids in her hair, who knows, but generally this whole line is like a mage sort of spell theme, so we might have like wizards with books and such, casting spells in that, so very similar to Fennekin, Braixen and Delphox. We'll see though, we'll see. Then we have this next line, which I'm really excited to tell you about, guys, because I solved the name and I'm really happy with myself. I was like, boom, this is awesome. 789 Fidlob and 790 Kaluka. Now, someone in the comment section mentioned the Fiddler Crab, so I was like, the Fiddler Crab? That's similar to Lobster. Fidlob, you know, so went through that, and yes, it looks like Fiddler Crab is where the Fid comes from, and obviously Lobster being similar to crabs just gives you the second half. Whether it will be based purely on a Fiddler Crab with this big claw and this little claw, who knows. There might be some lobster stuff put in there, like the second claw might be similar to a lobster claw, who knows. But the second Pokemon is the most interesting, Kaluka. Now, the Fiddler Crab is also commonly called the Cooling Crab. That's where the cow comes from. Now, Uka is the name of genus of crabs. Uka. So we have Kaluka. It fits perfectly there. I'm just so amazed with this thing. It's amazing. If it's real, I love it. If it's not, props to whoever put this together, because all the names check out basically. Moving on again, we have Salandit's line, starting off with Badpole, then Salandit, and then Swindoot. We have Badpole obviously being a combination of Bad and Tadpole, since the whole of the line here relates around, you know, criminals basically. So we have Bad, we have Bandit from Salandit, and obviously Swindoot, we have Swindle and Newt. So Swindle being to swindle you out of some cash, to cheat you out of some cash sort of thing. So it looks like the final evolution here is going to be based on a Newt. Whether it will be a Newt on 2 legs, I would imagine so. It would make sense, I suppose, in my eyes. But it could be 4 legs as well, who knows. But that's that line. Then we move on again, and we have this interesting line we looked at yesterday. We have Germic, Papaya, and Triburn. Now, Germic, I had no idea. Someone in the comments was very helpful and suggested Germinate, which makes a load of sense since it looks like it's going to be based on a pepper plant. What's the basic stage of a plant? A seed. What do seeds do? They germinate in the ground. You know, and it seems that I don't know what the second half is, the ick, where that comes from. So Germinate is a good start though. And then we have Papaya, which is obviously a combination of pepper and fire, seeing as this Pokemon is a grass fire type. And then Triburn is a bit different. Obviously Burn comes from fire again, but where does Tri come from? Well, someone again in the comment section suggested and brought to my attention a pepper called the Trinidad Scorpion Pepper. Trinidad, Tri, boom, fits perfectly there, and obviously this final Pokemon could be based on a variation of this sort of pepper. So I really like that line. Next up we have a line we've seen again already, which is Fomantis and Narantis, grass types, very simple, nothing too much to dwell on there. Moving further on we have this fungus line, this mushroom line, we have Funky and Hallucid. Funky being basically a combination of fungus and funky. So you have obviously fungus, and then key comes from funky, I think, because of the second half of the evolution line here, which is hallucid, which is hallucinate and lucid, and they're both quite funky. So these seem to be based on magic mushrooms, or at least mushrooms that can make you hallucinate, so poisonous mushrooms, because they are poison fairy types. So funky does fit in there, and I really like the lucid inclusion here, because obviously, yes, okay, lucid is lucid dreaming, it's a bit different, but a lucid state is a state where, you know, if I give it a quick Google, of course, you know, always me always googling in my videos. A lucid state is any dream during which the dreamer is aware they are dreaming, which is you can get from magic mushrooms basically. If you take some magic mushrooms, you can sort of know that you're going crazy, but you can, you don't really care. So that's how that works there. Moving further on, we have this very interesting line: CUB+BADGE, Meritote, and Staloot. I was like, maybe it's, you know, to do with like totems and such. Because we have Meritote. Someone in the comment section again, you know, sort of put me on the right track here, and we have, it's to do with scouts and scouting. CUB+BADGE is Cub and Badge. Meritote includes merit and possibly totem, to suggest towards the design. I don't know though. And then Staloot includes salute. So we have basically a scouting line, and these are all fight. Well, the first two are fighting type, and the last one are fighting steel type. It makes sense, you know. I guess, you know, not necessarily fighting in general, but you know, there'll be humanoids, I suppose, or at least, you know, maybe like bear-like humanoids. Who knows? And it makes sense there. Yeah, makes sense already. That's all I can say for that line. Moving on to then the Atom line next, we have Hydratom, Positom, and Negatom. Obviously Hydratom being a combination of hydrogen or hydrate and atom. Positon being positive in atom, Negaton being negative in atom. And something I looked at here was the typing. Positon is a fire water type, Negaton is an electric water type, and obviously Hydraton is normal water. So you have normal water. Positon means you're more positive. Generally positivity means more energy, means towards fire I suppose, hence why you have a fire water type rather than normal water. And Negaton means you have more electrons, which just means you have a bigger electric charge, hence why it's an electric water type. So I really love that. If this is real, I guess I'm interested to see what they look like, but it'll be interesting. This is those sort of the weirdest ones I suppose. Moving on to the steel line next, we have number 807 Screw-Loose, and we have number 808 Structure. Now, I was sat here last night and I was doing these names and I was going through and I was like, Screw-Loose, where does that come from? And I realised, Screw-Loose. It's literally in the name. Screw-Loose, so it seems to be that sort of thing. Now again, it's steel type, it seems based on some sort of structure, especially the second Pokemon being Structor. There's obviously structure in there, and possibly linking in with construct, so it could be some sort of steel structure sort of Pokemon, hence why we have screws in that. It makes a lot of sense there. Moving on to these two sort of interesting Pokemon that were on their own yesterday, we have Crypty and Dustrance. Now, I didn't know too much about these two, especially Crypty, so I put Crypty into Google, and then it gave me Cryptid. So I googled Cryptid, and Cryptid, if I Google again quickly, Cryptid, Cryptid. I can't do it properly. We have Cryptid, which is an animal whose existence or survival is disputed or unsubstantiated, such as the Yeti. What type is this Pokemon? Yes, it's an ice fighting type, the perfect type for a Yeti Pokemon, so I believe Crypty, of course if it's real, will be a Yeti Pokemon. Then we have Dustrance, which is obviously a combination of dust and trance, and being a fairy ground type makes a lot of sense. We have dust for ground, and then trance for fairy, you know, making people happy and such. Who knows what that Pokemon's going to be like at all, we have the general sort of ideas for them. Moving on with the Dragon line here, which is Gardrake, Garroyal, Torgoyle and Forgoyle. Gardrake is obviously a combination of guard and drake, you know, guard being, so it would possibly be like a guarding Pokemon, maybe like a shield, I don't know, and then drake being dragon. Garroyal again, guard and royal, so maybe like a more royal design here, who knows. And then I believe this is where the evolution splits into Torgoyle and Forgoyle. Torgoyle is a dragon fighting type. I don't know where Tor comes from in particular. Tor in sort of England and the UK means like a mountain top. And it's a dragon fighting type. Doesn't really fit. If it was Dragon Rock, it would fit more. But fighting type, I guess, still fits. You know, tall, nice mountain. You can climb mountains to be strong. Who knows? It's just a random thought there. But Forgoyle, because it's a dragon steel type, seems to be a combination of forge and gargoyle, because you can forge metal, forge steel, for example. So that makes sense there. Moving on to the line I hope is actually real, we have the Cosmos line, I guess we can call it. Cosmot, Spectrodon, and Quasar. We have Cosmot, which is a combination of Cosmos and Comet, obviously. Spectrodon seems to be a combination of Spectra or Spectrum and Don. Now, Spectra being like a spectra of light, spectra of waves, whatever. Don's a bit different. Don is a common name at the end of dinosaur names, meaning tooth. And then we have Quasar, which is a combination of Quasar, or Quasar, I don't know how to say it actually, and then dinosaur. So it looks like these are dark electric types, but they look like they're going to be based on dinosaurs to some extent, because we have Dawn and we have Saw. Seems a lot like, you know, dinosaur-like names. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them be based on some form of dinosaur, even though they're not really like rock or, you know, fossil Pokemon, but having a dinosaur-like design. You know, Charmeleon and Charizard have dinosaur-like designs in some aspects of their names, but they're not rock types, so it will be interesting to see basically. Finally, we have the Guardian Pokemon, which are quite interesting to look at. Tapu Koko is up first. His name, in particular, is a combination of sacred or holy. That's Tapu, is the Hawaiian word for sacred or holy. And then Koko is the Hawaiian word for the word that chickens, the noise that chickens make. This is because one of the islands in Hawaii is sort of inundated with chickens, wild chickens. And obviously Tapu Koko looks similar to a chicken. It's not exactly, it obviously looks like a bird, but it doesn't look like a chicken in particular. So it's a very sort of out there reference. And so are these other ones. We have Tapu Pipi, which obviously is sacred or holy, and Pipi is the Hawaiian word for cow or bovine. So maybe like it'll be a cow or bovine like Pokemon. This is actually supposed to be the Fire Fairy type, so who knows exactly how that could work. Obviously Tapu Koko looks nothing like a bird really, apart from its totem face, so of course maybe the totem face just needs to look like a cow animal in general, whereas the Pokemon inside is going to look very similar to Tapu Koko. Then we have Tapu Piloka, and Piloka, again, Hawaiian word for amphibian. Frog being sort of the one that came to mind first. This is the psychic fairy type, so maybe it'll be a psychic frog, who knows. Again, the only thing that needs to look like an amphibian is the mask, is the totem part, sort of totem mask, that's what I'll call it. So maybe maybe it won't look like a frog, maybe it'll just be having the totem mask. And then finally we have Tapu Mano. Now Mano isn't going to help us really, but we have, I think it's Manu is the Hawaiian word for bird in general, just bird in general. So maybe Tapu Mano, the ghost fairy type, will be based on some form of bird as well. Who knows? That's just the Guardians there. Then finally we have the legendaries, obviously Solgaleo and Lunala. Then we have Mau Shadow, which is a combination of Mau, which means bad, and Shadow, so bad Shadow. It's a dark fire type apparently, so I can imagine it being an actual evil legendary Pokemon, very similar to Darkrai. And obviously finally we have Beginner. But that's the whole line, guys. So this video was a bit longer than yesterday's, but I feel like we have this list sort of down. We can make a good guess on most of these Pokemon here. Of course, if this list is correct and it's real, then we will know soon enough when on 15th of August, so less than about a week away, another Pokemon, well, I'm assuming another Pokemon is going to get revealed next week, who knows. But if another Pokemon gets revealed and it has the name of one of these Pokemon on the list and fits in, we'll pretty much be able to confirm this list here. We'll see if that happens or not though. They might notice that the list is out there and say we're not going to reveal any more Pokemon for a while, who knows. But of course, when we do and when we hear something, I'll let you guys know. But for now, this is going to be it for me for today. Any thoughts on any of the Pokemon in the lines, guys? Let me know down below. What are you hyped to see if it's real? I'm really hyped for that Cosmos line because I really want to see Quasar and see what a Dark Electric type looks like in that sense. But let me know if there's any other Pokemon you really want to be real or really don't want to be real, like the Atom Pokemon, for example. Let me know what you think down below, guys. But this is going to be it for me for today. I'll be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.